If you want to sign a defensive midfield destroyer with stats on Football Manager, for a midfield destroyer, you want to go over to your edit search, and under the search, go ahead and select the central midfield and defensive midfield positions. Once you have those positions all down, you go over to your stats page. Under stats, go over to tackles and interceptions, tackles completed per 90. All the way down here, go ahead and select tackles completed per 90, set that to 2.5. Also go back to stats, go for interceptions. Under interceptions per 90 minutes, set that to maybe 1.5. For interceptions per 90, 1.5. Under stats again, go back to tackles and then blocks completed per 90 minutes, set that to maybe 0.5. So that's going to narrow you down to like 3 players. In case it's too small an amount, you can go ahead and drop the other stats just to help you filter and then bring out more players for you. You can go ahead and see some interesting player here. There's a player that plays for Freiburg, Johan Manzambi. He's a Switzerland player. Look at those attributes: determination, work rate, tackling, technique, all quite stacked. And you can actually sign in for about £46 million in FM26. You can talk the agent into giving you a very, very good price, which is quite good. Or you can go ahead and sign Manzambi, this sort of player. In case you're in the lower leagues, you can look at all the other options that are available to you. There's Heather Berlin B and Dion Adzavi, quite a mid-table sort of player. So you can go ahead and snap him up from Heather Berlin second team. I also did this for Football Manager 2024. I'm going to show you the stats. Now, to sign a defensive midfield destroyer on FM24, here are the stats that I went on to use. Position is either central midfielder or defensive midfielder. You want tackles per 90 to be about 3.0. You want interceptions per 90 to be about 2.5. You want blocks per 90 to be 2.0. Pressures per 90 to be 4. And then pass completion ratio 80%. This is slightly different from what you'll see on FMStag, but that's because the FMStag ratings for a very, very good destroyer doesn't show up any players right now. So we have to go ahead and scale it down a bit to start seeing some players in my save. If you go ahead and try it in your save and you don't see some players, remember to always dial it down a bit so you can start players can start popping up in your save. Now, for what I expect for my destroyer midfielder, I don't really want him to do blocks. I kind of need that from center backs and not defensive midfielders. I want my defensive midfielder to apply pressure. So pressure I'm going to leave. Tackles I'm going to leave that on. I can go ahead and drop the tackles to maybe 2.5 or 2.0 and see which players actually go ahead and pop up. Pressures completed, let's say 3.0 as well. Now, pass completion 80% is a bit high because he's a midfielder. He may go ahead and be loose with passing. So I can go ahead and drop that to maybe 40% and see what actually pops up. Now that we've narrowed down our list, we can go ahead and start looking through the players that we can actually see. Now, there's a player here that plays for Scotland, Stuart Wilson. He's currently playing at Hibernian. He's a 17-year-old and there's nothing much known about this guy. There are also some other players here, but let's look at Stuart Wilson and see what he's got. Very few. You can see that his passing is between 11 and 20. First touch is between 12 and 18. So you have to go ahead and scout this player and see what can actually come off it. But let's go ahead and put him for scouting. It's actually available to sign. So go ahead for scout report, scouting for about 1 week. There are some other players that you can actually go ahead and see. There's Massimo Conti, of course. Let me say for my team here, you may not fit into my team. But for an average player, if you're managing a mid-table team or a lower league team, this guy can actually get into your team and execute numbers for you because he has shown that in the game, he can actually perform at that level. So I went to select the attributes that I felt is going to be important for a destroyer defensive midfielder. Position either central midfield or defensive midfield. Tackles per 90 about 2. Interceptions per 90 also 2. Pass completion 40%. I think he doesn't need to have a 90% passing completion because he's a midfielder. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now you can see that there's some interesting players that are actually popping up right now in our team. There's Roberto De Bernardi, plays for Inter Milan, also going to be a rival club that we can go ahead and try to sign from. But he's a 20-year-old player that, look at these attributes. Oh my goodness. First touch, passing 16, aggression 18. Quite a very, very good player that you can go ahead and sign. Now, you don't want it to have the stats to be so high like they have them on FMStag. But if you go ahead and use those stats and you don't see anybody, remember to dial it down to allow some players to actually pop into the save. Now, but those are the attributes that we're looking for a destroyer defensive midfielder. Here they are. I will go ahead and show you more player types on Football Manager. For more videos like this, remember to hit the subscribe button so you can get notified when those videos actually come up.